As Luke Skywalker began absolutely shredding through Moff Gideon's Darktroopers with his green lightsaber, in The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 8, Luke used a very interesting Force ability that was forbidden by the Jedi of the Republic era because of how cruel it was. I'm going to break down exactly how Luke Skywalker used Force Crush against the Darktroopers and all of the other times it was used by Force users in some pretty harsh and cruel ways. Before we get into it, make sure to hit the subscribe button for more awesome Star Wars lore content. The ability known as Force Crush was one of the most violent and vicious Force abilities that was known by both the Jedi and Sith Orders. When using the technique, its user often, but not always, lifted the opponent into the air, and while they were floating, the Force user would implode the enemy's body as if it were brutally crushed by the Force. This technique was very often used by those strong in the dark side, and the ability required the dark side to flow strongly through its user. For this reason, the Jedi Council heavily frowned upon its use, especially against organic, living, breathing enemies. The Jedi, however, even looked down upon those who used the Force Crush ability against non-sentient beings like droids, because it of course required the dark side to be channeled, potentially opening the door for the darkness to corrupt its user. After Luke arrived on Moff Gideon's light cruiser, he very quickly entered the main bays of the vessel and began absolutely tearing the Darktroopers to pieces, slashing, melting and slicing them until they dropped. This was absolutely incredible and I was so hyped to see it. Let me know in the comments what your reaction was as soon as Luke appeared on the screen. At what point did you realize it was him? For me, as soon as I saw the single X-Wing land, I had a very strong feeling that it would be Luke. Near the end of Luke's awesome hallway scene, he approaches a Darktrooper and holds it in place before brutally crushing it, destroying its inner circuitry, and compressing its armored plating. This was of course the Force Crush ability. This actually makes a lot of sense because we know that Luke's new Jedi Order, which hasn't fully formed by this point, is moving away from the dogmatic views of the Republic era Jedi. Luke is not afraid of the darkness like the old Jedi were, but instead understands its dangers and recognizes that it can corrupt a person if embraced too deeply. The Republic era Jedi were blinded by the light side of the Force, and through discovering Jedi artifacts, studying Jedi texts, and visiting old temples, Luke has learned this and is aiming to not make the same mistakes. For this reason, it's very fitting for Luke to use this ability, which does utilize the dark side. Luke is also wearing his black outfit from Return of the Jedi. We know George Lucas absolutely loves his color symbolism, and Luke's robes went from white in the earlier two movies to black in Return of the Jedi because of his struggles with the dark side in that film. The first moment we see Luke enter Jabba's palace, he force chokes two Gamorrean guards, and that was absolutely awesome to see. Now, I'll break down some of the other times the Force Choke ability was used throughout the Clone Wars and later. Jedi General Obi-Wan Kenobi used this brutal technique on two commando droids on the planet Kiros, home to colonists of the Togruta species during the Clone Wars. After they arrived on Kiros, Obi-Wan and Anakin discovered that blast charges had been planted around the area, putting the colonists in severe danger. Obi-Wan then used the dark ability so that he could recover his lightsaber after fighting the Zygerian slaver Darth Stenar. The use of the ability was justified by Obi-Wan because it gave Anakin time to destroy the blast charges that were planted around the city, saving the Togruta colonists. Later in the Clone Wars, Mace Windu also used the Force Crush ability on the cyborg General Grievous as he was attempting to transport Palpatine to his ship, the Invisible Hand, after kidnapping him during the Battle of Coruscant. Mace Windu's use of the Force Crush ability on Grievous crushed his lungs horribly, leading him to experience constant choking, and is actually where he gets his cough from, which we see in Revenge of the Sith. This was one of the very few times where a Jedi was ever seen using the Force Crush ability on a living being, as of course it was extremely violent and channeled the dark side heavily. Mace Windu, however, was one of the few Jedi who was known to balance the dark side of the Force. He even used the Vapad fighting style, which incorporated the dark side into his combat. Following that, Anakin Skywalker also used Force Crush during the Clone Wars, channeling the dark side on the planet Nelvan, where he used it to break a Techno-Union scientist's suit and release the pressure from inside, causing an explosive decompression, which killed him instantly. After Darth Vader's fall to the dark side, he would never hesitate to use Force Crush and similar Force abilities on any Imperial personnel that he deemed incompetent. Vader was also capable of crushing small vehicles while on the battlefield. All the way back in the time of the Old Republic, Darth Traya also used the Force Crush ability against her opponents to make up for the fact that she was older than most of them and did not possess as much physical strength to take them on head first. About 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, Darth Bane also killed one of the members of the Brotherhood of Darkness using Force Crush. The Brotherhood of Darkness was basically an organization of Sith that came together in the last decade of the Republic's Dark Age. If you want to hear more about them, let me know in the comments down below. Finally, Galen Marek, or Starkiller, also used this ability against an AT-ST on Raxus Prime during his assault on the Imperial factory there. And if you've played the Force Unleashed games, you'll definitely remember that one. Following this, there was also a notable family on the planet Corellia called the Horn family. This family was part of the Corellian Jedi Order, and because they were part of this separate branch, they had different customs from the other members of the Jedi Order. The Corellian Jedi were allowed to marry and have children, and usually did not travel beyond Corellian space. The very interesting thing about this family is that although they were capable of connecting with and using the Force, they were never able to channel the ability of telekinesis, which is pretty much the most basic Force power there is, at least in the physical realm. Because Force Crush is a member of the Force Telekinesis family of powers, you would think they couldn't use it. But strangely, this family had a different and unique way of utilizing Force Telekinesis, which I will get into in a moment. During the Clone Wars, a member of this family named Nayar used Force Crush to kill a man of the Anazat species, who was a member of the Jedi Order, but had fallen to the dark side. Now, unlike most other Jedi, he had possessed the ability in the Force to absorb energy from objects like lightsabers and blaster bolts, which in turn gave him the ability to use the telekinesis abilities like pull, push, choke, and of course, crush. Abilities that most other Jedi were simply able to do from a very young age. This Force absorption ability was also known as Tutaminis, and was actually the same ability used by Master Yoda in Revenge of the Sith against Count Dooku. He probably would have also tried to use it against Palpatine if he had not been caught off guard by his lightning inside of his office before their fight. The ability was also used throughout history by Tasha Rio before the Republic, Darth Plagueis aboard the Wobegon, Satil Shan at the Battle of Alderaan in the Great Galactic War, Obi-Wan Kenobi during the Clone Wars against Dirge, where he deflected the bounty hunter's flamethrower using nothing but the Force, and then shortly after, blocked blaster bolts from a droideka, and many others throughout time. So after absorbing the energy from the fallen Jedi's lightsaber, Nayar was able to channel his Force telekinesis into the Force Crush ability and make his opponent feel the full, crushing power of the Force on his body, of course killing him very quickly. So let me know down below if you want to hear more about the rare and unique Force abilities which were used throughout the galaxy. There are so many awesome ones which aren't well known, so let me know and I'll put them all into one video. And also, out of the ones you know, let me know which one your favorite is. Also, if you want me to cover other Forbidden Force abilities by the Jedi Order, just let me know and I'll also do that one. The Jedi of the Republic forbid pretty much every interesting Force power. So that is the Forbidden Force ability, Force Crush, that Luke Skywalker used on the Darktroopers in the Mandalorian Chapter 16. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.